Hey marketers, this is Dot and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Ethan Okwara, Group Head, Marketing and Corporate Communications at Asset and Resource Management Holding Company. And we will be talking about the state of performance marketing campaign activations. I know you guys are ready, so let's get it. Welcome, Ethan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, Dot, it's great to be here. I'm, going through the workday, but can't wait to get into it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So let's get straight into it then. Could you please tell us a bit about, yourself, your background, your role, and how you've come to become a great CMO?
Mhm. I like how you say I'm a great CMO, because apparently people have to blow your horn for you. So just keep doing that
Absolutely.
wherever you are. I don't have time to blow my own horn. I appreciate it. But on a more serious note, though, so my name is Ethan, like it says on a title mark somewhere. I'm an incurable optimist with a passion for connecting people to the right product or service via experiences, right? And I have over 16 years of marketing experience across media production, FMCG, that's fast moving consumer goods, and financial services industry, which I am currently in right now. I am also quite the geek, so I'm a bit into tech. I say a bit, by I mean a lot, spend a lot. And
Yeah.
I am a avid gamer, and I'm not very good at it, but I dabble. And I'm into superheroes, like everybody should be. I don't think people should get elected if they're not into superheroes. I'm just kidding. And that's a short summary of who I am.
Yeah, that's the shortest summary. But I know you are also known as a very intelligent experiential marketer. Who always comes up with very innovative ideas. Maybe the best I have seen personally, and someone who continues to shine. In a world where human-to-human engagement is more important than ever. So, on this podcast, can you please expose your secret to us?
The secret actually isn't much of a secret. It's everything you've said in there, human to human. Everything I've learned and I'm applying, I've learned from another human. Surprising. Okay, we'll talk about my alien encounter later, but I've learned from another human. And these are people I've understudied who have gone through worldwide experiences. And at the core of experiential performance marketing is a connection. I mean, social media is great for connecting like we're doing right now, but we're not activating all the senses. Humans are made of senses. We smell, we touch, we feel, all those things we can't truly explain. That is the 360 of experiential performance marketing. And that's what I try to bring to every activation, even though digital is a very big part of that. But once you go beyond that, then you are truly looking at longevity when it comes to brand equity.
Yeah, I like the last point you said there. I did speak to a guest recently, and she also mentioned the longevity of the brand and how that influences everything else we seem to care about these days, whether it's bottom line revenue, average order value, and so on and so forth. You have to really work to build your brand, and the only way to accomplish that is to continually engage people and, just like you said, activate the senses. I recently finished a book called Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. And in that book has about 8 triggers on how to rightly work with people from a marketing perspective and how to use that to grow ethically. I must add that as well. So that's pretty good saying that. Now, when we look at commercials and, we have a lot of people running commercials these days and people burning money, with regards to commercials these days, literally burning money. But we know some that are very profitable, like, the WhatsApp or Microsoft Excel or Geico skippables. I love the skippables. Share a Coke, for example. These are campaigns that have driven not just eyeballs, but commercial value. So what are the ways you think marketers run campaigns these days that still cause loss of revenue or even loss of investment itself, from your experience?
Yeah, that's all over the place. Unfortunately, it does not help other marketers who actually know what they're doing in terms of gives them a bad rep, especially when it comes to marketing, because a lot of C-suite, and this is with all due respect to most C-suits, are very focused on the bottom line. right? And when you want to talk about, yes, the bottom line is important, but we also need to build brand equity alongside that. If you don't know what you're doing, you're pretty much just digging that hole deeper to put your leg in it. And to answer your question, why there's still bad campaigns and people throwing money out the window is, for one, people don't determine, do I even need this campaign, for starters? And by what I mean is, does your product even work? Right? So no matter how great the campaign is, if I can, the proverbial horse to the stream, but I can't force it to drink. If it just doesn't work, it doesn't work. So you need to fix your fundamentals. If your fundamentals are good, then do you need a campaign? The answer is yes. If it is it niche, is it targeted? Then most brand managers and most marketers, when you say, give me a campaign, CISO, give me a campaign, they're going to draw up a list of 50 things. Oh, I need to do this, that. I need to be on TV. And the budget becomes last. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, Dots, don't get me wrong. But when you do that, what you should do is to go back to that list of great ideas and then reorder them in terms of priority. One, what will give me the biggest ROI from A, satisfy my CISO in terms of bang per buck, and B, brand equity. What are the top 3 things I can afford? Look at the budget vis-a-vis, and then decide that these are the core things I want to focus on. That's just for even making the commitment to having a campaign. Then the really important part is determining who needs this campaign, what should it be about. And remember, we talked about connection. And if it doesn't connect, you're just talking, you guys just sat in a room and made a decision and said, oh, this sounds like a great idea. Let's almost made a brand reference just now, but it totally ruined your podcast. Let's do this and lose a few $1 billion while we're at it. And we're not thinking about the people at the center of the product, the person that's going to experience your product. And that niche should come from them. And that's where data analytics and understanding the market comes in.
Wow. I like and we're already discussing strategy here, which is cool. I like your insight as to saying you need to determine the commercial value first before the idea, which I have never heard before. And I think I like that because at the end of the day, when you are working with the C-suite guys, the business leaders, they want to see how to, what is in it for me, the bang for the buck, just like you said, right? And starting with the objective in mind, the corporate, the business objective in mind, and seeing, how efficient you are going to run this initiative based on that. Then you can start to trickle down into relevance, which is some of the things that you've mentioned. But I think most people, as of today, start with the ideas. And people get confused, just as you said, in terms of, there's just so much being thrown around there. Everyone is a consultant these days, So, so you've just got to, again, if you are listening or watching now, you've just got to focus on what the commercial value is, then work on the idea and how you can use data to inform both the macro, which Ethan said there about the market, or even what is going on within yourself. But I will also not skip what Ethan said about, fixing the fundamentals. And it's not just about fixing the product fundamentals. It's sometimes also about fixing the fundamentals of your marketing, the digital transformation state of your marketing. Like, do you have all the tracking codes? Do you have a great web experience? You guys, you're listening, you're hearing, you know what I'm saying. If you don't fix that, please do not start a campaign at all. Don't even try. So I thought I should mention that, and I'm really glad, Ethan, that you dove into that as well. So let's get into some of the examples or forms or approaches of marketing campaign activations from your experience. Could you give us your best 2 approaches? And if you can give us a B2B side and a B2C side, just to give some variety there out of your experience.
2 approaches. It'd be hard to pick my best 2 approaches.
Or any 2.
One good example would be, like I talked about, when you look at experiential marketing, there's a term I'm going to say a lot that comes to focusing on share of. Typical businesses tend to focus on share of wallet, right? How much can I get from you at a certain point of action? So if you had to take, for instance, a valid strategy, not a great one, but a valid strategy is to say, I want a B2B product that whenever a company wants to make a payment for a service, they think about me, right? And that's where my niche will play. The problem with that strategy, which is good, but the problem is that they're only thinking about you when they want to make payments. And as a human, or as humans, I don't like to pay for anything, quite frankly. You know, right?
Yeah.
Even if I need it, I don't want to pay for it. So that's not a positive experience. That's one. Two, there's a whole other part of my life that you're missing out on, that you have no influence over, but you're waiting for me to make a payment, which is why share of wallet is more important than share of life is more important than share of wallet. So share of life experiences, which is why you're going to see brands that go out of their way to have experiential events that aren't directly related to the product, but they try to get more involved in other aspects of your life so that you are thinking about my product when you're trying to make that call, even up to the point when you need to make payment. So you're no longer evaluating who to choose just because I want to make payment, but who to choose because they have value in my life. So the short answer to your question is experiential life events would be one of those things that have a tie-in, which is essentially sampling. And if you think of sampling as a subset of that, experiential events are sampling in a sense, right? I'm trying to get you to experience my product or service. I'm trying to get you to be in the atmosphere of how it works. I'm trying to let you see it. I'm trying to let you make a call based on how you feel, which at the heart of every product and service, that's really what it is at the end of the day, how you feel. So at the core of my experientials, those two key ways would be how I want to drive that experience of making how you feel whenever you think of my brand. And if you think of all the biggest ones in the world, it's really about how you feel when you buy them.
Absolutely.
You know those two phones. And
yeah, I know. Yeah. We're on the same trade on that.
We are on to actually use 30% features that are packed with every event, but with my feel at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you're right. Just a quick distraction here. I'm a Samsung user, and just last weekend I bought the I can't remember the name of the phone I bought, but it's like $2,000 or something crazy like that. I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, okay. So every day I pick up the phone, I'm trying to use it just to get value from it. But the brand that is being built there is what, and we have some guys at the other side on the Apple spectrum, for example. So I agree with you on the brand side. But something I just learned now is that life experiences, which I think is an upcoming concept that I think is going to grow a lot. And I'll tell you why.
Share of life. Yeah.
Share of life, yeah. Please, guys, write it down. Pause this and write it down, then continue. Now, when it comes to lifetime value, I think share of life is important in lifetime value because you look at the lifetime value of your audience and you spot the different needs within that lifetime value where your product can help. And guys, full disclosure, I've known Ethan for a while, and I know that one of the brands that he manages deals with retirement savings. And part of the share of life for every retirement savings client is their health. If you are not healthy enough, you don't get to enjoy your pension, basically. And what they do with that is creating experiences around healthy things, exercises and events around marathons and things like that, because that connects to that area of life towards retirement. And there are many other examples here, but I think if there's anything that you guys need to learn from this episode today, is that share of life. Like, if you're a marketer, you need to be able to study the decision-making process of your client, study their Harvard courses, the job to be done, and study how that relates to their lifetime value, however long that lifetime value is, and use that to develop great ideas for brand activations. And these are ideas that once the strategy is done, you will surely get return on your investment. So that's pretty cool there. Again, still speaking on concept here, what do you think about the illustrative approach to marketing? It's almost like the share of life you mentioned, whereby they take a scenario in your life, they talk about that in like a post or a video or some creative, and then use that to sell the products. So, there are many examples. I could give one quickly. I know a company that was trying to sell recycling, like they're trying to promote their recycling service. And then they told the story of the milk cake. And you have milk keg, he has friends, he has families, stuff like that. We know that is fiction, we know that is not real, but we know that in the experience of disposing recyclable, a milk keg is one of the biggest things, because when you are packing these things together, the milk keg takes up a big space, and it's like, oh my god, okay, So I thought that was very cool, and I know there are thousands of examples like that where they use illustrative marketing. There is also the Apple Tag advert. I like that a lot, where the guy dives into his sofa, and that goes into a world where he's looking for his car keys or whatever it is. Do you think illustrative marketing is something that is still resonates today? Because to be honest, ads these days are crap, but that's another topic for another day.
I would like to be on that podcast for ads are crap. We can go off for 2 days, but back to what you asked. Illustrative marketing, I think, is here to stay. I think it boils back to what we said earlier: connections, right? Mm-hmm. How you feel about something illustrated on the screen connects you even more to that product or service or brand, because it's the same way I feel when I put my hand in my wife's bag to look for something. It feels like my hand goes into a cave, right? And I'm touching all kinds of terrain, and there's like different life forms in there. But that's how I see it in my head. If you're able to illustrate that, I can totally really, when I see that, like I get it. It was like putting your hand in the couch looking for the keys, and it's a different world when you jump in, just like you said with it. And so it's those emotions that you hope, like, I get that. I totally get that. And if you add a little bit of satire and humor in a sad world, I think it'll always be relevant. No matter what. So yeah, it's always, I completely agree with you. It's a solid way to go.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot, Ethan. Get ready. I give you $5 million. And I want you to put that in a 1-minute video on Super Bowl. Number one, should you even do that in the first place? Are there ways to better put the $5 million? And if you say yes, you want to do it, how differently will you do it in 2023?
Right. So, when you opened with, if I give you $5 million, I was just going to say, I would leave this podcast.
I guess as much.
I apologize. My mind ran away with me. So So the first thing, it's not a complicated question at all, actually. The first thing you would ask yourself is this 5 million all you had in your advertising cycle? If the answer is yes, is all you have, definitely don't put
it's all you have. Yeah.
That's definitely not putting it in the Super Bowl. It's not happening, because that's a one-shot ad, right? And don't get me wrong, the Super Bowl delivers eyeballs, even delivers ROI. I think to date, it's currently trending at a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio. So $4 to $1. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Who make those returns. However, you are looking at the big boys here. These are people whose marketing budgets are in the billions. So first of all, you would be stupid to put a direct, and I say direct placement in the Super Bowl. What I would do with that 5 million, since you said it's the only thing I have, is look for indirect piggybacks. Remember what Volkswagen did with, was it one of the Super Bowls, where they didn't advertise in the Super Bowl, but they put out a digital ad that said, for your chance to win one VW, all you have to do is tag us and say something every time you see a Super Bowl ad, which was brilliant, because everybody's going to see a Super Bowl ad. They got ads, they got in the hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of reposts and proliferation versus what they actually put out for the ad.
Yeah, so that was brilliant, because they sort of inverted the campaign on its head, basically.
Precisely. So I took advantage of people who had the money to drive my brand awareness in the same period, but I'm not going to spend my 5 minutes. You would fire me. Come on, man. If I blew that whole money, there's no way I'm making it.
Absolutely, I will.
But I would take a percentage. He said, absolutely, I will. That's so cool. But I will take that money and then spread it across the life cycle of my product for the peak times in the year when I think is relevant to my business. but do that one bank shot when I can't afford it. I mean, don't play. You should play in that park, but you should creatively do it, kind of like what Volkswagen did, and use other means for the eyeballs that are watching that thing to get attention from that thing. And that's how a smart marketer would do it. So I would expect the cash first.
Absolutely. And I know for marketers listening, that's a bit stressful. Sometimes to get those ideas, you have to literally sit in the bathroom for like 5 hours. I get it. However,
too much information,
yeah, you know, you have to, it's always worth it. You know, branding in today's world is 75% strategy, strategy budgeting, and 25% implementation, because that is the only way you can run efficiently. And even for the enterprises that have 5 million and then some, it's always trying to make the best use of every channel possible, because of the world we live in today, whereby, we've had recession. People are still saying maybe there is recession. They're like, haven't we had recession? There's a lot going on. And everyone is really mindful on how they commit to resources in general, not just marketing resources. So thanks for sharing your insights on that. The next question here is in terms of brand versus performance. And I think you sort of mentioned that a bit with brand equity. But influencer marketing is one tactic that sort of marries both together. So it satisfies the brand and it also satisfies performance. And I'm wondering, what is the right way to execute influencer marketing campaigns these days?
Okay. You mentioned some very important things, that influencer marketing tries to sort of balance performance and brand equity, right? But for you, as the person selecting the influencer and the niche you're trying to target, that's what is key to making it work. So the 3 pillars is, are you focused on conversion? Are you focused on awareness? Or are you focused on, 3 pillars here. You're focused on conversion, you're focused on awareness, and you need to focus on the influencer niche. And why those 3 pillars matter? Because my awareness is irrelevant to a niche that doesn't concern the product or service. My influencer is irrelevant to a product that their followers cannot associate with. My influencer, if they're too big, they're mega influencer, and I'm trying to get conversions in a product that is to a certain niche, I'd be deceiving myself. I'm more likely to drive awareness, because more people are going to believe that Beyonce knows about this product than they would believe that Beyonce uses this product. Right? But they're more likely to believe a nano influencer who is a community person, where chances that they see them in the average, you're not going to see Beyonce at Walmart anytime soon, but chances of seeing a nano or micro influencer in places that you can relate with is much higher, and they're more likely to use those things. So they tilt more towards conversions for nano and micro, and more towards awareness for mega influencers. Some of them try to straddle the line, don't get me wrong, but at the heart of that is knowing what your niche is. So I wouldn't push centrally tech products. I mean, this is my opinion. I could be wrong, with Beyonce, for example, versus another influencer who is more likely to use it. All right. So, and that's the trifecta of making a successful influencer campaign. If you check those 3 boxes, you should be in good way.
And I appreciate what you said there. I don't know if you heard, we are both in the tech world. I don't know if you heard Marcus Brownlee. He saw an influencer post. I don't want to mention the brand, but it's a brand. It's a telephone brand, mobile phone brand, smartphone brand in China. They were trying to promote their device, and Gal Gadot, I can mention her name.
Come on, man. We know who this is.
So it's she posted that, but in that post was Twitter for, and is it Twitter for iPhone or something crazy like that? So and then he called it out, and then I don't know, maybe he was blocked or something like that. Yeah. So you're right to say micro and nano are the guys to go, because they'll use the product. You're not going to get a Twitter for Apple on a let me just say Huawei product, right? So it's important if you're exactly, it's good, but it's when you're, for marketers listening, if they have to engage influencers, there must be a period, at least a month, on where having them to use the product, it's probably good news if they use it already, or it's something that it's really, really important to do so. Another approach to marketing here is thought leadership or education. From your experience, what are some of the examples of how a brand has used education and thought leadership to, speak to their audiences and potential customers?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends on the service or product in this case, right? If your product or service has a learning curve, you would be foolhardy to try and push the values or the benefits to me over how it works without how it works in part and parcel of that creatively. Because you're leaving the learning curve to me. That's more work. As a consumer, I don't want to do any of that work. I just want the benefits, right?
Like a B2B product, right?
Exactly. Right. So B2B, if you flip that coin and say it's pretty straightforward, not much of a learning curve, and then so your education, I'm taking this back to experiential, it's less instructive, but it's better for me to influence whoever those decision makers are by sort of giving them a hands-on experience of how easy or how convenient it is for them to use. Because me just saying those words, they're just buzzwords, they're just sound bites. But if you do experience it and you go, oh, this was pretty easy to use, that's different. And then I add on the benefits. It's cheaper to your firm. It has 24-hour service, and that's just icing on the cake. So I think depending on the learning curve of your service, you may need to lean more in one direction or the other, but some things are more thought leadership and aspirational based. Again, humans are generally aspirational. I get that a petrol head wants to know how the engine part of a Corvette or supercharger works, but an aspirational vehicle like a Lexus or Mercedes, BMW, it's less about that and more about how it makes you feel. I mean, Mercedes is moving away from the V10s and V12s, from the noises, into hybrids and electric cars. It doesn't matter. It's how it makes me feel when I drive down the street in my Mercedes. So it's less about the technicality of the knowledge, but it's more about the thought, the
job,
the positioning. Correct. The position of when I have it, I'm there. I'm in the category of what I was hoping for, and how I feel is how I feel, and you can't put a price on that. Well, you can, but that's what adds to your customer lifetime value.
Yeah.
In the shortest possible way. I can ramble on for longer, but that's the most simple way I can think of to put it.
No. Yeah, I think you've got some great points there, and why thought leadership should continue. Not just B2B, but it's mostly in B2B. B2C, people always assume people would it'll grow on them or whatever, but from a B2B perspective, mostly I think it's important for people to for marketers to communicate that job that needs to be done, which cannot be priced, like you said. What does it make me achieve? It's not these features that it has, but what are the benefits that makes me achieve, whether it's the qualitative or the quantitative jobs to be done, basically. So I would agree with that. Before we move ahead, I would like us to have a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back after this. Stay tuned if you're listening.
This episode is brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. If you're a business needing content promotion, podcast campaign production, or are looking to build effective B2B marketing strategies, Dots is here to offer you ultimate marketing leadership and expertise. Find out more at www.dotslovesmarketing.com.
Welcome back to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, and thank you, Ethan, for staying with us. It's been an awesome chat so far. But I'll move ahead here. Yeah. When it comes to tactics, for marketing campaigns, and I would like us to, set the record straight. You are known for setting the record straight, by the way. So I would like you to demonstrate that today. What are I would say, in your view, I think you've mentioned a bit of that, but if you can elaborate on your top KPIs that can be used as a leverage to get investment in performance marketing activations from C-level management. What do you what do you think are some of the best KPIs? And they don't have to be comfortable KPIs. Sometimes you have to report 0 all the time. So yeah, what are the top KPIs that you think from a, an activation perspective leaders would like to see?
Excuse me. So I like how you said that very confident that, it doesn't have to be something major all the time. Sometimes you have to report 0. I mean, you don't become Apple overnight. Let's just get that out of the way. You come today, there are those bright star products that show up every now and then, or services that show up, but again, you do not become Apple overnight. So answering your question, one of the biggest things I've seen to help me, especially with convincing C-suites, is showing the relationship between short-term activation and mid to long-term customer lifetime value. Okay. So in short and summary, what I can give you now, if we went straight with pure performance marketing and what you could get in the mid to long term, if you balanced it out with brand building and equity growth for that brand, which if that graph is drawn, it would be inversely proportional in terms of the amount you needed to spend all the time for immediate activations versus natural attribution due to brand equity, which you've grown. There are products right now, some of us buy without any prompts. That product has gotten life share and mind equity from you. So they don't have to really advertise much. You already have a face for them.
Yeah, but Tesla just started advertising this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So once I can show customer lifetime value, especially per client, what it can be versus what it is, human nature tends to want the bigger one. And then it's the knowledge between how you can convince me that I can take you from here to here, and then ultimately you're going to be spending less but making more. I think that's what is critical when it comes to measurements for convincing C-suites in proving that branding, balancing equity with performance marketing is just the way to go.
Yeah. And, if you've been on this podcast for a while, you would see me talk about showing leadership the process through which you grow from one point to the other and what that journey looks like. Most leaders know, the value of brand equity, but they are sometimes not willing to commit to what it takes. But it is your job as the expert, the marketer, to be able to show the journey from where you want to be, where you are to where you want to be, using metrics that are not vanity metrics. People use all kinds of metrics these days. I don't know why we are still using CPM these days. My personal opinion. Please don't kill me on LinkedIn, on Twitter for this. But I personally don't think we should be using stuff like that, even for a brand awareness campaign, because engagement is the better KPI if all you want to achieve is brand awareness. But if you want to achieve conversions, then you go to the deeper level KPIs and how your campaign can drive sales enablement, whether it's a B2B or a B2C space. So that's really beautiful. Something else I wanted to ask you, especially with the analogy of the 5 million that we use there, for enterprises that have a lot of money to spend, do you think they should still stay efficient by growing from the inside out? This is the way startups have grown, and I know you've been in the startup world a lot as well. With startups, they have to make sure the product works, the basics work, and then as for some time they let the product speak for itself while they support that with marketing, but they don't often drive the viability of that product through marketing. I've watched a lot of Shark Tank shows, and a lot of people get chased out because marketing is the only way people can get their product. There is no virality coefficient involved, which is quite disappointing. So how do you expect very big companies, the fangs of this world, I work with a few of them on a daily basis. How do you get those companies to say, you guys can run efficient marketing, focus on product, focus on customer service, so that marketing can grow organically and there is no aggressive push, as it were, so that way you can gain market share the right way and not waste money on activations? Yeah. What do you think?
You're right. I agree with you. It boils back to what I said earlier about showing the value between short-term activations that, like you said, rightfully just wasting money trying to boost. It's not always necessarily wasting money, but trying to get short-term results with what you spend in the now versus what you could get more by spending less. Learning from startups, I think a lot of big companies are already doing that. I'd be surprised if they're not looking at their counterparts. So a good example would be Barclays, right? Or even ARM, right? So Barclays has Rise, ARM has something called ARM Labs. What they do is that they work with startups who develop these products very quickly using the standard build, test, release. But what they don't have, just like you rightly mentioned, is that whole advertising, performance marketing push because of budget. But they will lean on the parent company that is now housing those smaller startups. So sort of like a symbiotic relationship, learning from each other. And if there's opportunity to integrate, then they integrate and expand the company even more. And they learn those practices across the business. That's how I think most large companies should start to learn performance marketing. Adopt the core practices, test them in key areas. If you're worried about how's this thing going to do on a large scale, you don't have to go large scale, like you said. Test them in key areas, see how they're doing, adopt and learn, and let it just sort of spread virally internally. And you will notice that the brand equity, because of the brand that large company already has, will then rub off on the product in its infancy and pretty much catapult it to where it should be in a decent time frame. And you'd be spending less along that trail as you go up that ladder, but growing brand equity and ensuring that sales and conversions continue to rise if done correctly.
Makes sense. And I agree with you, because when it comes to enterprises, these are guys with over 70 domain ranking. Facebook has a 100 over 100 domain ranking, for example. So they already have brand equity to the max. So why stay aggressive when you can continually improve, where you can continually, if you're spinning off initiatives, you spin them out organically. Because the truth about aggressive marketing with big brands is that if the more positive exposure you're willing to get would also come with negative exposure, right? Even though people say these days, before now, that bad PR is still PR, but if you get a bad PR in 2023, it's bad PR for your bottom line. People have gotten more upset these days. So really it's very important to follow some of the way that Ethan has broken that down based on short-term goals, long-term value, and trying to connect that to get to the result that you want. Before we close here, I'd like to ask you one last set of questions, and it's about best practices for leveraging technology. And how will we do this episode without talking about the tech stack, right? Machine learning, metaverse, augmented reality, VR, chat GPT, try saying that 10 times without stopping. And all these technologies here, what have you, experienced from all this? How do you see the future on how marketers can use this to drive performance-based brand activations?
That's a very deep question, Dad. I think with the advent of AI, things are changing very quickly, and they're going to change even more rapidly. I think there's a lot of responsibility on both sides that people need to be held accountable. People who are developing these tools, we need to be careful how we apply them so that we're not the negatives don't overweigh the positives. Think of every great thing that has ever been invented, right? From nuclear power to gene splicing. There's always that set of people who want to try it, who want to use it in a negative way, even though they think it's positive in the beginning, right? And that's not goal. So like I said, the bomb, how we created the bomb and how we managed to enhance some viruses to date. But that's a different whole conspiracy theory video. Yeah. In relation to marketing, I think the sooner marketers begin to embrace it, the better, because you learn to control what you know how it works. The less you know how it works, the more you fear it. It's just human nature. So and the more we all involved, it also helps us with that responsibility I was talking about, knowing where our limits are and what we shouldn't be doing. How we apply them to data marketing. So look at AR, VR, those experiences we talked about at the very beginning of the podcast, which were limited by digital connections, start to be gradually broken down with the advent of things like VR and AR, because you're now using more than one sense. You are actually feeling things, depending on where you are, how that setup is done. You're actually experiencing a visual walkthrough. And I think if we apply them responsibly, depending on the product or service we're trying to promote, I think it'll be a whole new generation of marketing for us going into the future. And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
That's the long short of it.
I mean, I like what you said there with, as a fellow movie fan myself, there's this popular quote in X-Men that people fear what they don't understand. But even when they understand it, it still doesn't stop the dangers. And if you look into marketing, there are issues like click fraud, there are issues like brand impersonation is what I was, like I have worked in the financial side myself, before I later worked with you many years ago. And we had issues of, people posing as the CEO of a very big commercial bank and asking people for money and things like that. So are there some of those dangers that, concern you?
Yeah, constantly. I think then it was just an email. So you would say, if you gave your money to someone who's supposed to be a CEO, you deserve to lose that money. But now it's much harder because AI can mimic your voice. AI can mimic
exactly.
I mean, deepfakes. It's gonna be much, much harder. And those are pitfalls. Unfortunately, like I said, they are here to stay with AI. They're gonna get worse. We're gonna try to build mitigations, and they're gonna get worse. And it's the yin and yang of the world, right? Good and evil, light and dark. It's our responsibility to try and balance that, but there's just no escaping it. Maybe when Elon goes to Mars and I check it out and I get there first.
Good luck with that.
Then, I'm not going.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. I spoke to Brian, my producer, and I said, this is going to be an awesome episode. And Ethan, you haven't disappointed. Thank you so much for your time. And, you have been the best marketer I've ever worked with, full disclosure. So where can our marketers find you, if they need help creatively saving more money on large marketing campaigns?
If there's a sale somewhere at any supermarket selling video games, I'm there. I'm just kidding. You can find me a link to it, of course. Ethan Okwara, same Ethan Okwara on Instagram and Twitter. All the socials, just my first name and last name. I'm one of those ones that just decided to keep it simple. I don't have a dexterity 5004 69
2023.
Yeah, so that's where I am. It's been great here too. I mean, great team. I think you guys, it was a blast getting introduced to everyone. Great guys behind the scenes. You guys don't know. This Brian, this Gary, they're doing good work. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. That's all for today, guys. Thank you for listening. See more episodes at dotslovesmarketing.com and subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast on Apple and Spotify. Till next episode, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. There will be links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.